We all want to excel financially, but a lot of times there's just a few things holding us back.
True.
In this video, we're going to talk about 6 things that are keeping us broke. My name is Darius.
And I'm Carmen. So hold on tight. Go ahead and buckle your seatbelts because we're going to go through these 6 tips, rather quickly because we want to make sure that we have enough time to cover it and that you are able to take action from this video today. So getting started with the very first tip.
The first thing that's holding us back is the fact that we're not monitoring our spending. And the reason why that's a problem is because if we're not monitoring our spending, we don't know where our start point is. We don't know where we are at this very moment so that we can get to whatever goal that we want. When you think about us putting in a destination for a GPS, the GPS needs to know exactly where you are so it can tell you how to get to where you're going. Yeah. And if you want anyone to help you financially, if you want to help yourself financially, you have to understand where you are right now so that you can create some type of plan to get you to your final destination.
And with that point, one thing that I want to interject, we always have a plan for other things. Like we have a plan for our career. If you're an athlete, you have a plan for your athletic career. You know that you have to train so much, you have to do whatever you got to do to make sure that you can get to the big games that you want to get to, or you get to that career level that you want to get to. But why don't we ever take the time to be as intentional with our spending as we do a lot of our other life goals?
This is the case because it's easy to look at someone, another athlete, where there's information that you can get and say, okay, if I'm right here physically, this is where I need to be to play in this particular sport. Yeah. If this is where I am right now, this is the steps that I need to take to lose a certain weight that I want to lose. But when it comes to our finances, everybody is on a different position.
True.
And the only person that can get us from that position that we're in right now is us.
That makes sense. I was sharing that point because I think it's important for us to take a moment and realize, okay, what are some of the things that we're intentional about now? And how can we take that same intentionality and apply it to our finances? Yeah. Because sometimes it's just little tweaks here and there. Like we said, it's about intention. I keep using this word intention because it's so powerful to understand that there is intention with everything. There should be intention with everything that you do. Let me correct that statement. And especially when it comes to your spending. So what happens a lot of times if we're not intentional with our spending, then our money tells us where it went as opposed to us telling our money where to go. And then we end up having issues at the end of the month where maybe there's not a lot of money left at the end of the month. And we still have things that we got to do. We still got to live. So the very first point, again, going back to that, is just the fact of we want you to start being more intentional with your spending. And what does that mean? We say it all the time here on the Wealth Nation channel, is understanding your inputs and your outputs. What's coming in and what's going out, and making sure that those equal at some point and that one isn't over the other, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and as we go through these tips, it's one of those things that gets easier the more we do it.
Yeah.
Managing our finances is easy to get wrong, but it's kind of hard to get right.
Yeah. And with that point too, don't get discouraged. Like you were saying, if you do 1 month and things don't really add up and you're like, you know what, I'm not going to deal with that anymore. Or you go 2 months, 3 months, and then something falls off the wagon. Like, remember, this is a journey. And with everything else that you are intentional with, it's not always a perfect ride, a perfect route to get to that destination. There's going to be things that are going to challenge you and are things that are going to make you question what it is that you're doing. But remember that with your finances, the same thing. You got to be focused and you got to be diligent and you got to have the discipline.
Right. Now, it can kind of be like a downward spiral if you don't get one of these things right. Because the next thing is, if you don't manage your spending, then there's a higher chance that you're going to have impulse buying. Yeah. And impulse buying means that you're buying stuff. You need to take some time to sleep on it. Anything that's, I would say personally, more than your food budget, you should take some time to sleep on it to know if that's something that you'll actually need.
Yeah. And also with that, I think we talk about too, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So understanding that shelter, food and water, and transportation
prioritize those things
are the things you need to prioritize, and everything else we need to question, what it is exactly that we need these things for. And to Darius's point, if you're spending a significant amount of money over the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, then we got to look at, okay, wait a second, well, what's going on over here? So the thing about the impulse spending, and it's a domino effect. If you're not intentional with your spending, you're going to have impulse spending. You're going to be the ones that are at the last minute checkout grabbing, the little the little knickknacks that are right at the register that you don't need that pile up in your house. And those are things that don't serve you. So every time that you go to swipe your card or something that you think that you need to buy, we're all guilty of it. We've bought something impulsively and then regret that purchase later on. And now you realize that you literally just transferred wealth to that business. And a lot of us may not think of $5 or $10 or $15 or even $100 as transferring wealth. But if you keep doing impulse spending, that adds up. Every time you swipe that card and you're buying something that isn't going to serve a purpose, a major purpose in your life, then you're literally transferring the wealth that you just created to another business for them to use.
And it's all about setting a kind of like a standard or a guide. Let's say impulse buy may be something that's over $100. For us, it may be something that's over $200. Yeah. Every individual needs to sit down and look at how much they spend on different things and see what is considered an impulse buy. Because let's say if your weekly budget for food is $250 and you have an impulse buy of $200, well, you just blew your whole week's worth of grocery in one buy. Now, the thing is, this adds up over time. It's another one of those habits that add up. And if you are in the market to buy a new house, as an example, 5 impulse buys, that means that you just spent $1,000 and you at the end of the month have no idea where it went.
Yeah, exactly. And also, too, don't get us wrong, ladies and gentlemen, because some of you are going to be like, Darius and Carmen, we need to live. And you absolutely should. So we're not saying don't enjoy yourself, don't have blow money. We think that you should have these things. But what we're saying is when you think about 30 days, just take a moment to inspect what you do within 30 days. And within 30 days, do you feel like all of the money that you earned was responsibly spent? Just think about it. And you need to be the judge of that, not us. So it's just, again, intentional. I'm going to continue to say that. It's about being intentional with our spending. It's okay to buy a few things here or there that are going to bring you maybe a little bit of joy for 5 minutes. But how often do you want to keep doing that? Because as that money piles up, can you do more with that money? Can you be more productive with those funds as opposed to buying something that's going to give you the immediate gratification?
Right. And here's why impulse spending is so important to understand. And it leads to our third point, which is third-party debt. Your impulse spending is a gateway to third-party debt. And the reason why I say third-party debt is because every time we buy something that we can't necessarily afford, or maybe we bought some other things that we couldn't afford, and this time it's something that we need, and we don't have the funds available for it, we have to get third-party debt because we don't have the funds to support. And what happens is, not only do we have this $1,000 emergency that we have to pay for, but we have to pay interest on top of it because we can't afford it. We can't afford to just buy it outright. If so, we wouldn't have got third party lending in the first place.
This actually leads me to an example. We went to an outlet mall not too long ago, and I was purchasing some clothes, and the very nice sales clerk was checking me out, and she was like persistent on trying to give me a credit card. And she was like, "Oh, you're going to save like 20% or whatever." And I'm like, "No, I'm good. I really don't need it." And she was like, "But it's 20%." And in my head, I'm like, I don't want the credit card. And then 2, I understand enough in the system where I'm like, you're offering me a gateway to maybe not the best portal that I want to enter. Right. Granted, we're financially responsible enough, but I wondered in that moment, like, does she even understand what she's offering the next person? Because it might be 20% that you save from that specific purchase, but what does that mean over time? Because then that's impulse spending. That's people just spending that money that they don't have, and that's where we get into this whole domino effect. So I find it unfortunate that these retail companies always offer these credit cards with perks, because at the end of the day, that it's just serving the purpose of people continuing to overspend and not being able to take advantage of understanding the intentional spending that they need.
And I think it's okay if you frequently purchase clothes and you're responsible. Yeah, you should get that type of credit card. But for us specifically,
for our situation,
that wasn't the case. But there's some people that are responsible with credit cards, and that would be a good credit card for them to get because they can get points or something to get discounts on clothes, whatever it is. But I want to specifically say third party interest based on the fact that we talk about life insurance on this channel. You don't have to get in debt to somebody else. You can be in debt to yourself and pay yourself the interest. And the only way we can get to that point is if we're responsible with our spending. We understand where we are and where we need to go. We don't make impulse buys, and we make sure that the debt that we do own, we own ourselves, because regardless of what happens, we are going to have to finance every single thing that we buy. We either pay cash and have to replenish those funds, or we get it on credit and we have to work our way up to pay that off to zero. So in any example, you have to finance it. But when you talk about using life insurance, you're able to do the best of both worlds, where you finance it through your own banking system and you pay yourself back what you would have paid a third party lender, principal and interest. And what that allows you to do is that allows you to have more funds, principal and interest, that allows you to have more funds to use in the future to buy more items that you need to finance.
And what Darius is referring to, if you're interested, definitely click on the link below so that we can serve you, the Wealth Nation team, is basically just understanding the power of control. All we want to make sure that people understand, if you watch our videos, it's all about financial independence, financial literacy, but at the same time, once you gain this independence and literacy, it's about taking control over your finances and owning your own lifestyle, like we always say. So it's important for you to understand what are your options. If you are going to finance things, because we're going to do it anyway, we're either going to save it or we're going to use some sort of credit function, then why not create your own banking system where you can finance things yourself and utilize the interest that you would have spent elsewhere by building your own system.
Right. And if you want more information, then click on the link in the description so you can get more information. But as far as this video, the next thing is we pay ourselves last. This is a big thing that's keeping us broke, is we pay ourselves last and we prioritize everybody else before ourselves. And we even made a video on this, that a lot of times there's no money left over when we pay ourselves last. And
now let's clarify. When Darius is saying pay ourselves last, we're talking about saving money. If you haven't heard of these terms or things that we're talking about, we always say that you should pay yourself first. And that means that when you get paid, you should set money aside immediately for yourself before you start paying any of your bills. And the reason being is because we don't want you to wait until you pay all of your bills, and then whatever is left is the little pennies that you get at the end. And the reason why we feel that you should prioritize yourself is because you're the one earning the income in the first place. So if you're earning the income, you need to be the priority, because if you didn't go out and earn the income, none of these things would be paid.
Right. And what we also need to do is pay ourselves a percentage. And the reason why I say we should pay ourselves
percentage of our earnings,
a percentage of our earning, because all of the interest payments that we would pay is in interest. So we have to match the amount of money that we're paying ourselves and use the same language as the other financial institutions.
And the reason being is because if we're in the banking business, you may not know it or not, or you may not understand this or not, but you're in the banking business. We just don't know what position in the banking business you are. So if you're already in the banking business, and let's use the same jargon that they're using on us so that we can create our own banking systems. So like Darius was saying, figure out what is the percentage that you want to start paying yourself today to save money. And the point of that, again, is because you need to pay yourself for the efforts that you're doing. And a lot of times people come to us and say, well, Darius and Carmen, I don't have the savings that I should have, or if I pay myself first, I'm not going to be able to pay all my other bills. And that's where we say, wait a second, you may be overspending in some particular aspects of your life, because paying yourself first should never be a burden to paying the other bills. So that's another thing that we always say, that you should definitely look at your spending, see if there's certain categories where maybe you can cut back so that you're not overspending on especially the Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
On wants.
Wants should never exceed your needs. So definitely check into that.
And if you want more information, check out this video. We're going to link, put a card above, of the 50-30-20 rule and how we use that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Now, the next thing is we only put money in savings. That's a big thing. We only put money in savings,
which is tricky, because
that's the fifth tip.
If you hear it like from from face value, it almost sounds a little contradictory, because we're just talking about saving money. But what we're talking about to the next step of that is, once you get in the habit of saving money, what are you doing with those savings? Because just keeping your money in a savings account and that money is not being invested, it's not being moved, you're not earning anything from that, you're doing yourself a disservice, because that money needs to stay in motion so that you can continue to make more money and your money can work for you.
Yeah, but it's like any game that we play. We need to have a good offense and defense. And a good defense is saving money so that we don't have to go in debt when an emergency comes up.
Yeah.
But what we want to do is take that a step further and take some of our savings and allocate it towards investing so that we can have more money coming into our system. Mm-hmm. Because it's so important that we do continuously have funds, because it's more important that money is making money instead of you making money.
Ooh, I like it. And the other thing, going back to exactly what we teach and what we preach with using whole life insurance, is if you get in the habitual realm of saving money, then you take those savings and put it into a whole life insurance policy. That way that money is protected, it's earning a guaranteed rate of return, and you have a death benefit to go along with it just in case something happens to you. Mm-hmm. So it's a double whammy as far as just, again, understanding the things that you can do with your savings. And then once it's in a whole life insurance policy, if you decide that you want to invest, you can access those funds because it's your policy. You have control over it. You can do whatever you want with those funds, but just tuck it away inside a policy so that you can eventually do what you see fit.
Right. And the sixth thing that is keeping us broke is that we spend money that we earned. We only spend money that we earn. That's a problem. Well, the thing is, when we spend money we earn, is that money isn't being replaced by anything.
If you were to tell me that, and I'm starting to learn, I'm starting on this financial journey, like, what do you mean? I have income and I'm supposed to be spending it because I have bills. I have things that I'm supposed to be, doing to be responsible.
Well, let's go back to the source of that income. You had to go out and physically work to get those funds, that money that you earn. Mm-hmm. Let's say that you've been responsible for some time and you have some investment that's built up, and that investment is giving you an interest or a dividend or some earned funds. The fact is that money is still there working in that investment. Yeah. And the money that you spend from the interest that you've earned from that investment is money, that kind of mailbox money, money that's going to continuously come without you having to do anything for it. Mm-hmm. The problem is, when we spend money that we earn, we haven't been able to use it to make more money. Yeah. So not only is it costing us the whatever amount it cost us, but it's also costing us what we could have potentially earned from those funds.
And I think also too, to break it down from a simplistic form, is to understand that this is a process. It's going to take you a minute to get your money earning money for you, so that your money's working for you and you're not working so hard for it. Yeah. So the main thing is understanding the system is start saving money, use that money, put it in a whole life insurance policy, then start investing. Let that money start making money for you. And then the interest that you're getting from your investments, allow that to start funneling back into your lifestyle so it can pay for your lifestyle. Yeah. So that you're not working so hard for that income that you're not able to flip or do anything with. You're just making it and spending it and making it and spending it. So that's why we talk about building a banking system where you have a certain system where your money's flowing and it's constantly moving. And every time it just spits out interest payments, you're using those interest payments to finance your lifestyle.
Yeah, the moral of the story is we need to create a system. And right now, the system that we've created for ourselves doesn't serve us.
No, the system is working and spending and working and spending.
But that's the system. The thing is, there's always going to be a process for your money. Yeah. But unless we build it ourselves, it's never going to work for us. Yeah. Where we are right now financially is the sum of all the decisions we made up until this point. So if you're not where you want to be financially, it's because of the decisions that you've made. Mm-hmm. And that goes back to the fact that wealth is a mindset. And depending on the mindset that we have, we're going to continuously make these decisions over and over again that don't serve us. So our mindset affects our habits, and our habits affect the results that we get for our finances. So we have to be really intentional about the things that we do, the things that we can consume, and how we react to the environment that we're in.
I'm glad that you said consume, because consuming isn't just what are we ingesting, what is the food that we're eating, what are the programs that you're watching, what is the radio that you're listening to, what are your eyes seeing and feasting themselves on every single day, like your inputs, what are you being surrounded with on a daily basis, because that's going to affect how you make the decisions that you do.
That's why they call programs. That's why they call programs a program, because we're being programmed to think and react a certain way. We may not think that we are, but the consistent barrage of messaging that we get on a daily basis affects the decisions that we make.
So we were just talking I was just talking about this to one of my girlfriends, where you talk about you're the sum of the 5 people that you hang around the most. But what if you don't really hang around a lot of people? What if you don't have a ton of friends? Or what if you live alone? Things like that. And we were having this conversation where she was saying you're the sum of the 5 inputs that you have, essentially. So if you're only watching Netflix, if you're only watching The Breakfast Club, I don't know, whatever it is that you're only watching,
nothing's wrong with that stuff.
Nothing's wrong with it. But again, you have to figure out if you're trying to elevate, then you need to start listening and surrounding yourself with those people that are going to help you elevate. And it could just be changing the podcast station. It could just be watching different YouTube channels or whatever it is, so that you can make sure those inputs are affecting you. But going back to intentionality, again, we want to make sure that you all understand intentionality is very, very important, because you're going to be intentional about other things in life. So you need to be intentional about your money, how you treat your money, because ultimately money affects all the things that you're going to be able to do.
Right. And I have a question for you. If we're just some of the 5 people that we hang around with, I hang around you the most out of anybody on this planet. So that means there's only 4 slots left for me, but you represent 20% of that. Do you think you're a good influence on me?
I would sure hope so.
Am I a good influence on you?
Yeah.
Financially?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
I don't know, was that a good or a bad answer?
So I was just wondering what you were going to say, because it's just off the cuff question.
So if we're being 100, I think we've come through a hell of a journey. And I know that we've even shared on our YouTube channel where you've come from a scarcity mindset, I've come from an abundance mindset, and I think it's nice that we continue to check each other in those moments. So that's the only thing that I would say.
And when we say scarcity and abundance, I think what that plays into is a logical and an emotional way in which we approach money.
At this point, because before, I don't necessarily think that we have a scarcity mindsets, but it's more so, okay, in this moment, are we being logical or are we being emotional?
Right. Yeah. And being able to understand the difference between the two really works, because I had a scarcity mindset, but my decisions that I made, I felt were logical based on the numbers and the black and white that I see in front of me. Yeah. And I wouldn't have taken on opportunities if it wasn't for Carmen having a little more emotion when it comes to it, having a little more color.
Yes, sprinkle a little bit of that in.
There you go.
Because what happens when you think about, and what are we talking about, scarcity versus abundance mindset? It's important for you to also understand this as well, because when you're going through your spending, when you're trying to be intentional, and when you're making those moves, you also need to make sure that you have the right mindset that's going to keep you moving forward, right? Fall forward, not falling backward. And when you start getting uncomfortable, it's in those moments, are you falling backward and saying, you know what, I'm done, I can't do this anymore? Are you falling forward and going, okay, what am I learning from this? How do I pivot? How do I make the move so that you can continue moving forward? Right. So that's what we're talking about as far as your spending goes, because a scarcity mindset, if you think about it, it's somebody who's always going to close their pocketbook. Nope, we can't do it. Close up shop. We can't make this happen. It's never going to happen. Money doesn't fall on trees. Time is money. All of those things. Where someone who has an abundance mindset is always going to find a way. They're always going to make a buck, and they know that they can always make a buck because they understand the tool of money and how to make it work.
I wouldn't necessarily say they understand the tool of money, how to make it work. I just think they will take more chances because they're more emotional. Yeah. But the reason why we're having this conversation is because if we're the sum of the people that we hang around the most, our significant others play a huge role in the decisions that we make financially. So maybe it's a conversation. Maybe you're the one that's holding your team back, or maybe the other person is holding the team back. But at the end of the day, we need to come together as a team and make decisions financially.
I couldn't agree more. And with that, I almost feel like that's a segue to another video we need to do, spending with your spouses and how to make it work. So Wealth Nation, we appreciate you all vibing with us, listening with us today. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, because this YouTube algorithm is changing and we need you to hit that like button. Go ahead and do it right now. And also, we want you to check out the next video where we talk about passive income, because again, for us, it's all about keeping your money in motion, and you need to learn how. So let's go learn about passive income.
Remember to own your own lifestyle,
or someone else will.